The accidental discovery, Captain Maria Santos rubbed her eyes and stared at the sensor display for the third time. The readout hadn't changed. 47 massive ships hung in the void between her cargo freighter and the mining colony of New Esperanza. Each vessel was icily 10 times the size of her ship, the Lucky Break, and they were arranged in a perfect battle formation that screamed military precision. "Well, this wasn't in the shipping manifest," she muttered, reaching for her coffee mug. The ceramic cup bore the faded logo of Santos Family Freight Services, a small operation that had been hauling cargo between outer colonies for 3 generations. Maria had inherited both the company and its philosophy from her grandfather: deliver on time, stay out of trouble, and always have good coffee on hand. Her engineer, Tommy Rodriguez, poked his head up from the engine compartment where he'd been fine-tuning their hyperspace motivator. Oil stains covered his coveralls, and his graying hair stuck out at odd angles. At 55, he'd been fixing starships longer than Maria had been alive, and nothing in space surprised him anymore. Almost nothing. "Captain, you might want to see this," called out their communications officer, Lisa Chen. She was the youngest member of the crew at 28, fresh out of the Colonial Academy with degrees in xenolinguistics and quantum communications. Maria had hired her because good translators were hard to find, and because Lisa made excellent dumplings during the long hauls between systems. "Let me guess," Maria said, walking over to Lisa's station. "Our new neighbors want to chat." "There, broadcasting on all frequencies," Lisa replied, adjusting her headset. "The signal is incredibly strong, and they're using some kind of universal translator matrix. Whoever these people are, they've encountered a lot of different species." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a figure that looked like it had stepped out of humanity's worst nightmares about alien invaders. The being stood nearly 8 feet tall, with grey-green skin that seemed to absorb light. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in clawed hands that gripped what appeared to be ceremonial weapons. Its head was elongated, with 6 eyes, arranged in 2 rows, all glowing with an unsettling amber light. Elaborate armor covered its body, featuring intricate designs of twisted metal and pulsing energy conduits. "Attention, primitive vessel," the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice carrying harmonics that suggested multiple vocal cords. "I am Supreme Commander Krexther of the Vorthok Empire, Master of 1200 worlds and Sovereign of the Galactic Northeast Quadrant. You have entered Imperial space without authorization." Maria took a sip of her coffee and studied the alien commander with the same expression she might use to evaluate a new shipping route. "Nice to meet you, Commander. I'm Captain Santos of the Lucky Break. We're just hauling synthetic fertilizer to New Esperanza. Didn't know this system belonged to anyone in particular." Tommy had emerged from the engine room and was now leaning against a bulkhead, wiping his hands on a rag. "That's some fancy armor he's wearing. Looks expensive, but all those glowing bits must drain power like crazy. What's the point of making your equipment glow if it doesn't serve a function?" "Supreme." Commander Krexther's 6 eyes seemed to focus more intently on the screen. "You dare question Imperial military technology? The armor of the Vorthok is forged in the heart of dying stars and powered by the essence of conquered worlds." "Right, but what does it actually do?" Tommy asked, genuinely curious. "I mean, beyond looking impressive, does the glow provide some kind of tactical advantage, or is it just for show?" Lisa leaned forward in her chair. "Commander, your universal translator is remarkable. The linguistic matrix must process thousands of grammatical structures simultaneously. Did your people, develop it, or is it based on conquered technologies? The alien commander appeared, taken aback by the casual tone of the conversation. His forearms gestured dramatically. The Vorthok Empire does not explain its technology to inferior beings. You will surrender your vessel immediately and submit to Imperial processing. Resistance is futile and will result in your immediate destruction. Processing. Maria raised an eyebrow. That sounds ominous. What exactly does that involve? Useful individuals will be enslaved to serve the Empire. Those deemed worthless will be eliminated. Your vessel and cargo will become Imperial property. Tommy snorted. Good luck with that. This old bucket has been in my family for 30 years. The hyperdrive is held together with prayer and spare parts. The artificial gravity hiccups every Tuesday, and the coffee maker is older than some planets. You'd be doing us a favor by taking it off our hands. Wait, Maria said, holding up a hand. Before we get to the whole enslavement and elimination thing, I have some practical questions. How do you process 47 ships worth of cargo? Do you have the infrastructure for that? And what's your policy on hazardous materials? Because we're carrying 3,000 tons of synthetic fertilizer, and if that's not handled properly, it becomes very explosive. Supreme Commander Krexter S. Glowing eyes flickered with what might have been confusion. You, ... You are concerned about cargo handling procedures? Well, yeah, Maria replied. I've got delivery schedules to maintain. My customers on New Esperanza are expecting this fertilizer for their spring planting season. If you're going to appropriate my ship, I need to know if you can guarantee delivery, or if I should contact my insurance company about breach of contract. Lisa pulled up a holographic display showing the colony world. The agricultural settlement has been planning their crop rotation around this delivery. Without proper fertilization, their harvest yield could drop by 40%. That would affect food security for the entire Outer Rim. Your harvest schedules are irrelevant, Krexter declared, but his voice lacked some of its earlier authority. The Vorthok Empire will utilize your cargo as it sees fit. Tommy had been studying the alien fleet through the sensor feed. Captain, take a look at their engine configurations. Those ships are burning fusion reactors like there's no tomorrow. The energy signature suggests they're running at maybe 15% efficiency. They could get the same propulsion output with half the fuel consumption if they just adjusted their magnetic containment fields. Asterisk Tommy, that's not really our concern, Maria started to say, but the engineer was already warming to his favorite topic. No, seriously, look at this, Tommy continued, pointing at his readings. Their power distribution is all wrong. They're channeling energy through these massive conduits when they could use superconducting networks. It's like they're trying to make their technology as complicated and wasteful as possible. On screen, Supreme Commander Krexter was consulting with other aliens who had moved into view. Maria could hear them speaking in their own language. A series of clicks and harmonics that sounded agitated. Commander, Lisa interrupted politely. Your species appears to have achieved faster than light travel and universal translation technology, which suggests advanced scientific knowledge. But your friend is right about the energy inefficiency. Are these design choices cultural, or are there engineering constraints we're not seeing? The Empire's technology is perfect, Krexter replied, but he no longer sounded completely confident. It has conquered countless worlds. Oh, I'm sure it works, Maria said diplomatically. It's just that we humans tend to be practical about these things. If we can get the same job done with less effort, we usually prefer the easier way. Your primitive minds cannot comprehend the sophistication of Imperial engineering," the commander declared, his forearms waving for emphasis. Tommy laughed. "Primitive. Friend, we've been making things work with duct tape and determination for centuries. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution." Maria noticed that more aliens had gathered behind their commander, and they seemed to be having an intense discussion. Several were pointing at displays that probably showed the Lucky Break's own systems. She wondered what they were seeing. "Commander," she said, "would you like to see how our ship works? It's not fancy, but it gets the job done. We're always happy to share technical knowledge with new friends." Crexter's 6 eyes, all focused on Maria. "You are not responding to Imperial authority with appropriate fear. Should we be afraid?" Maria asked. "You seem reasonable enough. Sure, you've got a big fleet and you're talking about conquest, but you haven't actually hurt anyone. Mostly you just seem concerned about territorial boundaries and administrative procedures." Lisa nodded enthusiastically. "It's actually quite organized. Most species we've encountered are much less systematic about first contact protocols." "You have encountered other species?" This seemed to surprise the alien commander. "Of course," Maria replied. "Humans have been meeting new people for thousands of years. We've learned that most conflicts come from misunderstandings. Usually, once everyone sits down and talks things through, we can find solutions that work for everybody." Tommy had returned to studying the alien fleet's technical specifications. "Captain, I think I've figured out their problem. Look at these power readings. They're not just inefficient, they're actively fighting against their own systems. It's like they've designed their technology to be as intimidating as possible instead of as effective as possible." "That's an interesting observation," Maria mused. "Commander, is your technology designed primarily for psychological impact? Because that would explain a lot." Supreme Commander Crexter straightened to his full impressive height. "The sight of Imperial might has broken the will of 1,000 civilizations. Our weapons reduce planets to dust. Our ships blot out the stars themselves." "Right, but what happens when you meet someone who isn't intimidated?" Maria asked practically. "I mean, fear is a useful tool, but it only works if the other person is actually afraid. What's your backup plan?" The alien commander stared at her for a long moment. Behind him, his subordinates were having what looked like an increasingly frantic discussion. There has never been a species that was not intimidated by Imperial power. Crexter finally said. "Well," Maria replied cheerfully, "I guess there's a first time for everything. Would you like some coffee while we figure this out? We've got plenty." The Empire's unexpected defeat 2 hours later, the situation had become significantly more complicated. The original Vorthok fleet had been joined by reinforcements, bringing the total to over 100 massive warships. The space around New Esperanza now resembled a military parade, with alien vessels arranged in intimidating formations that stretched as far as the sensors could detect. Captain Maria Santos sat in her command chair, watching the display while finishing her second cup of coffee. The ceramic mug still bore coffee rings from the morning, and she absently wiped at them with her sleeve. Somehow, the sight of the expanding alien armada bothered her less than the stains on her favorite mug. Captain Lisa Chen reported from her communications station. "I'm intercepting communications between the alien ships. Their language has some fascinating grammatical structures, but I think I'm getting the general idea. They're arguing about what to do with us." Tommy Rodriguez emerged from the cargo bay where he'd been securing their fertilizer shipment. His coveralls were now decorated with synthetic nitrogen compound, which gave him a faintly chemical smell. That mixed oddly with the coffee aroma filling the bridge. "The cargo's secure," he announced. "Though I have to say, if shooting starts, we're sitting on enough explosive material to take out half this system. Synthetic fertilizer becomes really unstable under certain conditions. Let's hope it doesn't." "Come to that," Maria replied. "Any word from our new friends about their intentions?" As if summoned by her question, the main screen activated. Supreme Commander Krexter appeared again, but this time he was flanked by what appeared to be other high-ranking Vorthok officers. Their armor was even more elaborate than his, featuring additional spikes, more glowing elements, and decorative weapons that looked like they weighed more than most humans. "Attention, human vessel," Krexter announced, his voice carrying new authority. "The High Command of the Vorthok Empire has arrived to witness your submission. This is your final opportunity to surrender before we demonstrate the true power of Imperial technology." Maria set down her coffee cup and studied the alien commanders with professional interest. "Nice to see the whole families here. Are these your supervisors, Commander? They certainly have impressive outfits." One of the new aliens stepped forward. This one was larger than Krexter, with armor that seemed to incorporate actual flames into its design. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am War Master Vexnara of the Imperial Death Fleet. In 300 years of conquest, no species has survived our full attention. You will surrender immediately, or your world will be reduced to cosmic dust." Tommy squinted at the display. "Death Fleet. That's a bit dramatic, isn't it? Also, I'm curious about those flame elements. In your armor, are those actual combustion reactions or some kind of plasma effect? Because if it's real fire, the oxygen consumption must be enormous." War Master Vexnara's glowing eyes flickered. "The sacred flames of conquest burn with the souls of our enemies." "Right, but practically speaking, what's the fuel source?" Tommy persisted. "And how do you prevent overheating? That much thermal energy in a closed system would cook you alive without some serious heat management." Lisa leaned forward with academic interest. "The psychological symbolism is fascinating. Using fire as a representation of power is common among warrior cultures, but incorporating it into functional armor suggests either advanced materials, science, or significant design compromises." "It's not a design compromise," Vexnara protested, but his voice had lost some of its menacing quality. "The flames represent the eternal burning of Imperial will." "Sure," Maria said diplomatically, "but do they serve any tactical purpose? Because intimidation only works if the other person is actually intimidated. If they're not, you're just carrying around a lot of extra weight for decoration." Another alien commander stepped into view. This one's armor appeared to be made entirely of some kind of crystal that pulsed with internal light. When it moved, the crystals chimed like bells. "I am Crystal Sage Morthal of the Eternal Wisdom," it announced. "Your species displays unprecedented ignorance. Do you not comprehend that we have conquered 1,200 worlds? Entire civilizations have knelt before Imperial might." "That's impressive," Maria acknowledged. "But I have to ask, what did you actually do with 1,200 worlds? Because managing that many different planets and species must be a logistics nightmare. How do you handle the administrative overhead?" Crystal Sage Morthal seemed taken aback by the question. "Administrative ... overhead. You know, governance, resource allocation, maintaining supply lines across interstellar distances. With 1,200 worlds, you must have millions of different local customs, languages, and economic systems to coordinate. The bureaucracy alone would be staggering. Lisa pulled up a holographic calculator. Assuming an average population of 1 billion per world, you're governing 1.2 trillion beings. Even with advanced communication technology, the information processing requirements would be enormous. Tommy nodded thoughtfully. And that's not even considering the logistics of maintaining your fleet. 100 ships this size would require dedicated industrial worlds just to produce replacement parts. The resource consumption must be incredible. The 3 alien commanders exchanged glances. Behind them, other Vorthok officers were whispering urgently. The Empire's systems are perfect, War Master Vexnara declared, but he no longer sounded entirely convinced. I'm sure they work, Maria said reassuringly. But there's always room for improvement, right? For instance, your ships could probably achieve the same intimidation factor with half the energy consumption if you optimized your power distribution. We are not seeking your advice on Imperial technology, Crystal Sage Morthal stated firmly. Of course not, Maria replied. I'm just saying, if you ever want to compare notes, we humans have gotten pretty good at making things work efficiently. We've had to, since we've never had the luxury of unlimited resources. Tommy was studying his sensor readings again. Captain, I think they're about to demonstrate their firepower. I'm seeing massive energy buildups across their fleet. Attention. Humans, Supreme Commander Krexther announced. You will now witness the power that has brought 1,000 worlds to their knees. Observe as we reduce that asteroid field to nothing. The view screen shifted to show a cluster of large asteroids floating in space about 50,000 kilometers away. The rocks were typical of outer system debris, irregular chunks of stone and metal that had never coalesced into a proper planet. The Vorthok fleet began to glow with accumulated energy. Massive weapons arrays extended from their ships, crackling with power that made space itself seem to bend and twist. The display was genuinely impressive, like watching 100 artificial suns preparing to discharge their fury. Impressive. Light show, Maria observed. Very dramatic. The alien fleet fired simultaneously, and space erupted in a spectacular display of destruction. Beams of energy, particle streams, and exotic matter projectiles converged on the asteroid field. The rocks vaporized instantly, leaving nothing but expanding clouds of superheated gas and trace elements. For a moment, the bridge of the lucky break was silent as the humans absorbed what they had witnessed. Then Tommy started laughing. Oh my God, did you see the energy scatter patterns? They just wasted about 90% of their power output on visual effects. Lisa was taking notes on her tablet. The coordination was perfect, but the actual destructive efficiency was terrible. Look at all that waste heat they're venting. Maria shook her head. Guys, they just destroyed an entire asteroid field. Maybe we should focus on the fact that they can clearly destroy us if they want to. Captain, Tommy said seriously, I don't think they can. What do you mean? Tommy pulled up his technical analysis on the main display. Look at these power readings. They just expended the energy equivalent of a small star to destroy a bunch of rocks. Our mining charges could have achieved the same result with about 1% of that energy output. Mining charges. War Master Vexnara's voice cut across their discussion, yet we use controlled explosions to break up asteroids for mineral extraction, Tommy explained. Standard procedure for any mining operation. Much more efficient than energy weapons for that kind of work. Lisa looked up from her notes. Actually, that's a good point. Commander, why did you use military weapons to destroy asteroids? Wouldn't industrial equipment be more appropriate for demolition work? The alien commanders were quiet for a long moment. The demonstration was meant to inspire fear. Crystal Sage Morthal finally admitted. Right, but what if the other person isn't afraid? Maria asked. What if they're just wondering why you used the wrong tool for the job? Supreme Commander Krexther seemed to be having some kind of internal crisis. His 6 eyes were all focused on different points, and his 4 arms were gesturing uncertainly. This has never happened before, he said quietly. What hasn't happened? Maria prompted gently. A species that responds to imperial might with constructive criticism. Tommy grinned. Well, you did ask us to observe your demonstration. Observation kind of implies analysis, and analysis leads to suggestions for improvement. We have never needed improvement, War Master, Vexnara protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Everyone needs improvement, Maria said firmly. That's how progress happens. You try something, see how it works, then figure out how to do it better next time. Lisa nodded enthusiastically. It's called iterative development. Very effective. For technological advancement, the screen showed the alien commanders huddled in what was clearly an emergency conference. Their subordinates were pointing at displays and gesturing frantically. Several of the smaller alien ships seemed to be moving away from the main fleet. Captain, Lisa reported, I'm intercepting more communications. I think they're arguing about whether to retreat. Retreat? Maria raised an eyebrow. From one cargo ship? Not from us, specifically, Lisa clarified. From the situation, they seem to be having some kind of philosophical crisis. Supreme Commander Krexther reappeared on screen, looking considerably less imposing than before. His elaborate armor seemed to hang awkwardly on his frame, and his glowing eyes had dimmed noticeably. Human Captain, he said formally, the High Command requires clarification on certain matters. Sure, Maria replied. What can we help you with? How is it possible for a species to achieve interstellar travel, advanced materials science, and complex logistics systems while maintaining such a casual attitude toward military threats? Maria thought about the question seriously. Well, I suppose it's because we've never seen military threats and technological problems as separate issues. If someone threatens us, we figure out how to solve that problem, just like any other problem. Usually, the solution involves understanding what the other person actually wants and finding a way to give it to them without giving up what we need. Tommy added, plus, we've learned that the best way to solve problems is usually the simplest way. Complicated solutions tend to create new problems, and if the simple solution doesn't work, Crystal Sage, Morthal asked, then we try a different, simple solution, Lisa replied. Or sometimes we discover that we were trying to solve the wrong problem in the first place. The alien commanders exchanged glances that somehow conveyed entire conversations. Captain Santos, Supreme Commander Krexther, said finally, would your species be interested in discussing potential improvements to Imperial technology, in exchange for safe passage through your territory, of course? Maria smiled. Commander, I think that could be arranged. Tommy, how about you show them those engine efficiency calculations? And Lisa, maybe you could share some of your logistics models. As the lucky break moved toward the alien flagship, Maria reflected on how the day had turned out. She'd started the morning planning to deliver fertilizer to a farming colony, and now she was apparently consulting for a Galactic Empire on engineering efficiency. You know, she said to her crew, Grandpa always said that the key to successful freight hauling was being helpful to your customers. I don't think he ever imagined customers quite like these, though. Tommy was already pulling up technical diagrams. Think they'll be offended if I suggest they redesign their entire power distribution network? Only one way to find out, Maria replied, reaching for the coffee pot. This was definitely going to require more caffeine. Asterisk.